Hi, my name's Elisa Palmer. I had a near-death experience in 2001, and now I'm here to tell my story. Back in 2001, I was in a head-on collision, and I was going to Las Vegas. I was going to go with my friend Alex, and we were going to go meet up with our two friends. And so I was driving. It was about 6 or 7 that evening, and I was driving, and then a couple hours into it, it was getting darker and darker, and I was in Barstow, California, headed towards Las Vegas. And my friend Alex was sleeping, and I was driving, and it was a one-way highway. And so I was driving, and then all of a sudden, there was a car coming towards me, and it was coming so soon that I didn't have enough time to like shift over. So when it came at me, it hit me. Their driver's side hit my driver's side. It hit me, and the impact was 130 because it was 65 plus 65, both of our speed. And it hit me, and I bounced back. The other guy bounced back. And then I was sitting in the car. It was pretty dark. The headlights were on, but like with the cars, but it was in a distance. I'm sitting in the car, and I start to feel liquid, and I feel kind of like trapped in there, and I'm feeling liquid. And so I was like, "What is this?" And I stick my arm up, and my forearm, my my arm, it was bent backwards with the bone sticking out. So I touched the bone, and then I realized, like, oh my gosh, like I was in an accident. So I felt it, and I screamed because I realized it was my bone. And I was like, ah. And then when I was screaming, there's a guy knocking on the door next to me. And that guy, he was in a truck towing a boat right in front of me the whole time. So he had seen the accident, thankfully, and called 911. So then they came, the paramedics came, helicopter came, everybody came, and they got my friend out. And then I was more like pinned in there pretty good because the engine came in and broke both of my legs. And so I was pinned in there real good, and then they had to get the jaws of life. So after they came, there was a lady, the paramedic lady, and she had seen that I was like losing a lot of blood. I was kind of headed out. And so she started shouting, "What is your name?" And I'm like, I wake up out of it because I was starting to fade out. And then I'm like, "Lisa." And then her shouting made me realize, like, oh, she's trying to like keep me alive. And so as she's shouting, I'm trying to stay awake, but then I would drift. And as I would drift, I drifted into like, I want to say it was like it was above me. I would go back and forth from the physical car to above me. And then because there's no time that exists there, you couldn't tell the difference in time. So when I went there, I knew that I was like, oh my gosh, this is my home. I felt love. I felt pure love. I felt light. I felt everything good and wonderful. And I wanted to go to this light, this love, this beautiful place that felt like, my home. So I was like, oh my gosh, I understood everything. All this information came back to me. It was like a download. It was like I was here and I understand just a little bit, but when you're there, you get the full download of all the information that comes back to you. So you understand everything. And I understood, okay, this is my home. To me, that was God, my creator. And I wanted to go home with him. And so I was shown a life review because I think God wanted to show me my life so that I could see that I wasn't ready. So I had a life review. It flashed by. And as soon as I saw the life review, I was like, oh, I have to go home. I can't stay here, sadly. I got to go back because there's these things that I got to do. I have a life, I have a husband, I have kids, I have family, I have these plans that need to happen. And so I went after seeing the life review. It was as if God gave me the choice to say, okay, like, this is why I have to go. So that's why he showed it to me, to reveal to me why I had to come back. And then he gave me, I know some other people don't have a choice, but for whatever reason, he gave me the free will to say, oh, okay, like I'm going to go back. So that was kind of interesting. And so then, but I did bounce back and forth in and out of my body a couple times. And then when I bounced in my body, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here. I want to go where the peace is at because this isn't peaceful, this car accident. So when I'd bounce back, I was like, oh my gosh, and I hear the lady shouting, and then I would transcend back and forth. But the ultimate was that I had the life review. I wasn't ready. It wasn't my time. I had the download and then I came back. And then my friend, he was in a coma for 3 days. There was another gentleman that hit me and he had a dog. He was about 26 and he lost his life. And that made me really sad because he was so young. And I thought about his parents and stuff. And I know he's in the heavenlies now. I think with the download, it was like, I wish I could go back and remember all the information, but I know I understood all of everything. I understood why I was on earth. I understood everything. And so that was nice. I wish I could remember what everything I understood. One thing I did know that God showed me was that before I came here on to earth, before you're in the womb, God has a plan for you and he has gifts for you and he has all these things we're supposed to do. And I think pretty sure what happened to me is we have a relationship. We speak telepathically, like it's more evolved than this place. So we had an understanding of what I was supposed to do while I was here on earth, what gifts I was supposed to have and all that. And then he goes ahead and our creator puts us in the womb and then we're born. And then from there, we're supposed to do all these plans. But the world makes us forget or makes us live in fear or it takes away from the original plan. But originally, we are with the creator. We're with him the whole time. He puts us in the womb. He has a plan. And then we have these plans that we're given, and it's all to glorify him. And so we're all given these beautiful gifts. We all have these gifts, and it's all to glorify him. One time I had a dream, Matthew 5:16. I was dreaming that, and I heard it in my mind, and I knew it was a Bible verse. So I woke up and I looked at it, and it said, I don't know if I have it exact, but let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. And so that kind of complemented the rest of my other stuff to say, okay, the stuff from the near-death experience, and we're just here to glorify our Father in heaven and to love one another and to treat each other good and to, instead of being jealous of one another, lift each other's gifts up, because when we lift each other, we get stronger and stronger. And we're really unique because God made us that way on purpose because of our individuality. There's something very special in that God is trying to show us. Those are the things that I received. I'd have to say my life review is a lot like a movie screen, just watching it kind of go before you, but it was also like as if you're reliving it. So it's like you're physically watching it, but you're emotionally walking through it with not a 3D perspective, but more like a beyond that. So you can see every sort of nook and cranny angle of every person, the way that you're affecting them. So because we're a lot like a rock that goes into like a lake and you see the ripples, what we do is those ripples. So everything we do, whether it's good or bad, it causes a ripple into eternity in a sense. I just got the feeling of, or the information that I received was basically like that we're just here to love, we're here to be kind, we're here to be good. And when there's other things, those are just the lessons. But as far as like the actual going through it, I felt everything around me. I felt it in like almost a multi-dimensional way, not just me, but outside of myself too. And I think it's because we're all interconnected. Maybe we have this interconnection. And so we affect each other more than we actually realize. It was like a movie screen, and it was also like actually physically walking through it and going through it too, emotionally feeling everything that others around you would feel too. That's what I gathered for me. That was my experience. The heavenlies it's basically like heaven. So I like to call heaven the heavenlies because it engulfs everything. I do like to believe that God wants us to see the heavenlies here on earth. And I feel like in a lot of ways, I feel like we're honored and privileged enough to be alive during a time that we're going to start feeling that, because God wants to reveal those heavenlies to us before we go. But he loves us so much that he wants us to see it here now too. And I think in so many ways those the heavenlies and God, he's trying to have us do our gifts. And so he works through us and through this earth, and it's everywhere. But I think because we're in like a 3D dimension, and the heavenly realm is there's no time that exists there. I would like to think that realm, in a sense, has swallowed up this realm. And that's why we feel our loved ones. And I know that God loves us so much. And, there's different things in the Bible that it says about your loved ones and stuff. But I just have this inkling and this feeling that God loves us so much that he just keeps us together because of that, just that love that I felt in the heavenlies. It's like, I don't think that would ever separate us. That's something that is like whole and beautiful and wonderful. And so I guess as far as the heavenlies, I feel like they're here and all of our loved ones are here with us and they're not going away. They're cheering us on and they're just guiding us because they already finished their mission. And so they're just there to help us along. That's what I like to think.
So our loved ones can communicate with us.
I think through spirit. I like to say through spirit. I mean, I'm not God, so I don't know, but I know that I've had several family members have several different things happen with my father. And then I've also had things happen with my father when he passed away. I've had things happen with my children's grandmother. She had this very interesting time passing. And so as far as like the other realm, I think that they're always trying to just nudge us and get us our attention and remind us like we're here. I don't think that they ever leave. I can't imagine that love would divide. There's no division in love. So I would imagine that's not the case.
Can you tell me about some of the experiences that you've had with your dad since he died?
So with my dad, we had a wonderful time just hanging out before he passed on. He had cancer. And so him and I, and all of my family members, we just loved on him and were there with him. And he had cancer. So about 6 months into it, he had passed on. But we just were able to cherish him. And he was just so popular among so many people. His love was so bountiful because when he passed, the amount of people and the love that was there was it was beyond words. I'm forever grateful for all the people that love my father. And then when he started to go to the other side about 3 days before, family members started to show up because I know like with the hospice workers, they'll talk about these different things. So I don't feel too strange talking about it because I know it's a very common thing that happens. His family started to show up. And then he said at one point, because my dad was a tree man, he owned a tree business called Evergreen Tree Service that he started when he was about 17 years old when he passed. So I think he was 62. So he had it for a long time. So he said that there was a big boom truck in the way, a bucket truck in the way, and all of his family couldn't be by the road. So he said to move the boom truck so all of his family can come closer by the road. And so in his mind, he was seeing a huge amount of family members come down to talk about a celebration. I know that there was a celebration, and I could feel his family members say, "There's a celebration to be had. Papa Mike's coming home today." And it kept ringing in my mind over and over. And I'm like, why am I hearing like this is crazy? So I knew they were coming. And then at one point, I know there was angels in his room. I felt 2 angels in his room. I just felt it and I knew it. I know it sounds crazy, but I just know how protected and loved my dad was. A little bit before I laid with him the night before he passed on, and I was just holding with him, and I was so grateful I got to do that. And then after that, I laid with him till about 12, and then he went home about between 4 and 6. And my mom says she knows his mama came and got him. I know that he was protected. I know all these people were around him. He was safe. He was loved. I was watching a woman named Nurse Penny at that time. She's a hospice worker. I think she has a book and everything. And so I was following her a lot during that time. And that was really helpful because it made me see like a lot of these things like are normal, and some of the things she saw or what the family deals with, that's all normal stuff. So it made me feel very like, oh, okay, this is normal. So that was good. But I definitely felt the Holy Spirit all around my dad. He was so protected and loved and okay. I had this other experience where I was in my room and I started seeing a bunch of flashing come through my window over and over. And I was like, what is that? So then I get up and I look out the window, and there's lightning every 9 seconds because it's like a microstorm in Flagstaff because we're like, high up in the mountains and stuff. So there's a microstorm. And then in my mind, I heard, I'm going to put lightning above that tree. And I was like, what? This is so weird. I was like, Dad, if that's you, send the lightning. I see the tree. It starts to shake and shake and shake, all kinds of shaking. And then right above the tree went 2 times, and it lit the whole sky up orange, which is my dad's favorite color. And I just felt in my spirit, I was like, God was allowing Dad to connect with me because I just felt my dad. And so I think in ways like that, yeah. And then I have like my sister, she had a dream about Dad. And it was the day before my birthday. And Dad, in the dream, he said, don't forget the anniversary. He also mentioned my birthday. Don't forget Lisa's birthday. Don't forget the anniversary. And he was going down a waterfall. And my sister said, Dad, I thought the only waterfall you ever went down was Pirates of the Caribbean. And he had his arms up and he had a big smile. And he said, not anymore. And he went down. And then the next day was my birthday. And then she went and asked my mom, whose anniversary is it? And she said, oh, it's me and Dad's anniversary at the end of the month. So I think in ways like that, through the heavenlies and through the timeless realm and through that other space, yeah, I do think so. I do think that those things are real, and that God allows that because he loves us so much. So I write all that stuff down. And then 2 days before my dad passed on, he came to me in a dream and he said, I'm going to be leaving in 2 days. And I was like, wait, where are you going? And then he left in 4 days. I get things like that. I wish I had more dreams that my family members do. So that's very helpful. I've always been a really spiritual person since I was a little girl. I've always had this real strong relationship with God. It gave me a lot of clarity, a lot of understanding, a lot of empathy towards other people, and also empathy towards their belief system and where they're at with their journey. And also understanding everybody's on their own walk and it's so individual. And so I have a lot of respect towards other people and the way that they believe and the timing that they're in, because I do believe God works on the timing factor. Whenever his timing is, then it'll just show up and transition takes place and everything. I've always been a believer of Jesus. That's just how I've always been. I think I have a comfort in Jesus, just his love and what he showed while he was here on earth. But I'm in no way a pusher, because I'm more like, we just want to be the best example of light that we can to one another and just be the very best in that. So I have a lot of respect for everybody else's beliefs and always curious to hear what other people have to say. I think that's a huge thing, is make sure to take the time to listen to one another, because you might miss out on something if you just go, okay, that's fine, that's what you believe. But if you really take the time to stop and hear somebody's spirit and hear their soul, you can get in depths that you would have never got before. So I think listening is a big thing for me. Listening and loving other people and loving who they are and not pushing too much, but just being the best example that I can. That's what I try to do. What God is to me is he's pure love. He's the beginning to the end. He's everything in between. He's empathy. He's spirituality. He's understanding. He's everything that is good. He knows us like way better than we can ever know ourselves. So he's just like a mirror image of ourselves. If you're looking in the mirror, God knows us and sees us, every cell on our body, every hair on our head. Like, his love is so wonderful and so good. Like, there's no words to explain God's love and how much he loves us and how much he understands us. There's just not any words. I wish that I could just come up with the words or emotions, because you you can't explain that in this realm. You can't, it's just not something you can explain. It's something that when you're there and you attain it, you're like, oh, this is what it was. I understand. So God's love is just so beautiful. It's so wonderful. He's so good. He loves us so much. And I think sometimes this place seems pretty darn scary, but really he's got us like little babies right where we need to be. We're so safe in him and so loved in this place, especially nowadays. Like, it's just getting more and more interesting, but God's love is just growing more and more, if that's possible. So all encompassing.
You said earlier that you thought God was wanting to bring the heavenlies to earth early for us to show us what it was like. What are some of the things that God does to show us the heavenlies?
I think he shows us through nature in a lot of ways. I think nature is his way of, just when we look at nature or water, anything that God created, plants, the trees, when you look around and you just start thinking about like a tree and the root system, and you just start breaking down his creation, that is like, wow, we get to see the heavenlies here. But I do think in a lot of ways, I don't know what this feeling is I'm getting about just the world, but I feel a lot of wonderful, wonderful, good things coming, beautiful things where we're going to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know we were alive during a time like this. And I think that part of that feeling is the heavenlies trying to show up inside of us to start doing the course of action that we're headed towards. Because I think we're headed into a better direction than a lot of where we're at right now. So I just think that it's showing up emotionally through that feeling of, a lot of people are now, they feel like, oh, there's this really good things are coming. So I think that's God's way of saying, hey, we're going to get in a better, things are going to get better. I feel like a lot of togetherness and unity is going to come. A lot of working on each other's gifts, helping each other with gifts, and understanding that like the rut that we're in is not of God. That is not of God. So I think what it is, God is going to show us a new way. And with that feeling, oh, there's good to come, I think he's going to show us a new way. And then we're going to focus on ourselves, our own gift, and then that's going to grow. So I think it's a time where we're all supposed to work on our gift. I'm always asking God, what is my gift? So I'm still yet to find mine. Everyone has their unique gifts. So just like God makes our personality unique, he's going to make our gifts uniquely our own too. So I think that as time goes on and these feelings of these good things that are going to come, I think God's going to put it on our hearts to reach the heights of our gifts. So I don't know, because that was for God to put inside of us. I do believe he made the gifts individually per personality. And so whatever those gifts are, depending on the person, it's going to work in their life and bless the lives around them. So I think the gifts have to do with the blessing, giving other people the blessings, because we're supposed to bless each other while we're here. And I think part of the problem is, well, the government, but like the fear factor. There's a lot of fear. So when we rise up out of the fear, our gifts are a little bit more attainable. And then I think that we'll get to a point where we're just hopefully all just working on our gifts. But the gifts are important because they do glorify the Father.
And what is your feeling or your thoughts about what happens after death?
I think that we go to the heavenlies. I think we go home. And I think that there's a lot with what is it called? How I had the life review. There's a lot of interesting concepts with that. I think a lot of people say we judge ourselves, or there's no judgment, or different things like that. But I'm going, what about all those really, really bad people that like just really bad situations? So I would think I like to say for them, that's God. That's for God to figure out. That's like that. But for me and for anybody who is a very loving, kind of individual that wants to just represent the Father and be a good person, then I think we all go home and we all get to be together and we all get to be in unity and working on all of our stuff there. I think there's a unification that is, I think we have when we pass away, I think there's a feast prepared for us. I think we get a crown. I think that we just get to have a togetherness, and then all that feeling of loss will go away. We won't have those things, and all the dark things of the world, we won't bring those with us. They won't be able to exist in the heavenlies. So I think that will have its way out eventually. Just go on. And then with the people who've done really bad things, I don't know, that's for God to figure out. That's not really fully my place because that's him. I think for everybody else, that I think that we'll all go to the heavenlies. And I think for those other people, then they'll have to have some sort of talking to or some, I don't know. I don't know. But I like to be hopeful and say for the huge percentage of people, because most people are wonderful people, there's like a small percentage of those yucky people, but we're going to heaven. We're going home. It's a good place. It's wonderful. So I don't think we have as much to worry about as what we think.
When you were on the other side, did you see what the heavenlies looks like?
I saw light and it was just like the most beautiful light. I want to say that I don't know if I passed that realm. I don't know if I went past the light, but then I know I had the download. So I don't know if the download has to do with traveling through also. I got more information that I did. Yeah, I downloaded a lot of information. I didn't see a lot because I know there's other people, they'll travel through heaven and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could have done that. But I more just saw the light and I talked about the light. I tried to take pictures of the light and reenact it and bring it out in different ways. But I was just entrenched over this light, like the beauty of the light and just the feeling of the light and all that. So there's different concepts of like when you go there, there's color realms, all the regular colors. Those are like really nothing compared to the real colors, the vibrant colors. So I don't know. I wonder if there's like specks of that. I think as time goes on, more information will start coming back. It was about 20 years ago. At certain points, I remember a lot, and then certain points it kind of goes away. But I did put my story on nderf.org back in about 2001, which is Jeffrey Long and Jody Long's page. And Jeffrey Long put me in his book, God in the Afterlife, in the section of the life review. And I discovered that way later after I put my story in, because at that time, there was nothing on near-death experiences. So I started following, put my story in, and about 7 years later, maybe longer, I ordered his second book and I found my story in there. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I know like God did that on purpose. It wasn't an accident. For about 20 years now, I've been gathering and putting this together. And then now we're at this point where the near-death community has grown a lot since back then. So it's really fascinating to see how so many people are intrigued by it now, where 20 years ago, you weren't finding that much information. It's really wonderful and very exciting. And it feels like it's putting this puzzle piece together for me as I go on. So I already knew about this before. And now that I'm seeing it, I'm like, oh, I already knew about that. So to say what's to come in the future, it's nothing but good things because God told me about that. He told me about the gifts. So we're all here just to do gifts and love each other. That's all. It's so simple. The most important message that I want to give my audience is that love is so profound, and to love one another and to make the best decisions in love, because love is the only thing that we bring back with us. We're not going to bring back with us all the yucky stuff. So the profound message from the other side that I got from God was that to love one another and to be good for one another and to reach out when we need help, and to, instead of judge one another, reach out and see what you could do to help, because we're so much stronger like that. And we live in a society where right now, I think we sort of forgot about that. We forgot about that. But there's so much beauty and power in that. And Jesus is an example of that. And my dad was an example of that. He was just this beautiful person that just wanted to reach out and help everybody. That's what he left with me. So I know that that's my message today. And also, one more thing, happy birthday, Dad, because it's your birthday today. So I wanted to do this specifically for you on your birthday because I want to honor you and continue just pouring my love out to you, Dad. So happy birthday.